Well, I'm honored to be invited. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm truly humbled to have to stand up here on the hills of Nikki. But thank you. It's really great to be here. I'd like to open with this meditation describing community from the 365 Tao daily meditation of Den Yin Tao. Everyone understands that burning wood produces fire. But when fire feeds on fire, that is a rare condition that yields the greatest illumination. Two flames come together and yield light more magnificent than either could have given forth alone. In the case of community activity, this means that when one cooperates with others, the accomplishments are greater than what the individuals can do on their own. Such a situation requires a harmony that will generate ideas, inspiration, as well as momentum for growth and action. If the combinations occur properly, the results will be like fire feeding on fire and will illuminate the world. Well, Dr. Montessori understood and appreciated the importance of community in a way that guided her work to be as much about social justice as it was about human development. And her work has illuminated the world for over 100 years now. So let's look at the etymology of the word community. The first known use of the word came in the 14th century. And there are two major aspects of the notion of community. One is a territorial or geographical notion, as in the community of Wellington. And the second is relational, concerned with human relations without regard to locale, as in a community of nuns. Other definitions might include a unified body of individuals who may be bound together by interests or practices, a group linked by a common policy, a body of persons having a common history, or common social, economic, and political interests, or a body of persons of common and especially professional interests scattered throughout a larger society. That describes our Montessori community, scattered around the world. Well, for the purposes of this talk, I will use the definition offered by David McMillan. And he says, a sense of community is a feeling that members have of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another and to the group, and a shared faith that members' needs will be met through their commitment to be together. Some common characteristics of community are a common character or likeness of those in the community, and social activity or fellowship among those in the community. There's a social fabric of tightly woven interpersonal relationships. Research of Backrack and Zatra found that a strong sense of community can lead to problem-focused coping behaviors, meaning that members of the community can problem solve rather than merely reacting with emotion-focused coping strategies in which the members of the community try to adjust themselves emotionally to any problems that arise, but not to participate in coming to any real solutions. It was found that this strong sense of community might lead to a greater sense of purpose and perceived control. You think? There seems to be a process of empowerment that occurs through the development of this sense of community. McMillan and Chavez have identified 4 elements necessary for their definition of community. And the first element is membership. Membership is the feeling of belonging or of sharing a sense of personal relatedness. The second element is influence, a sense of mattering, of making a difference to a group. and of the group mattering to its members. And the third element is reinforcement, or integration and fulfillment of needs. This is the feeling that the resources received through their membership in the group will meet the needs of members' needs, will meet the members' needs. And the last element is shared emotional connection. The commitment and belief that members have shared and will share history, common places, time together, and similar experiences. All these ideas have come from late 20th century research. However, a sense of community has been a distinguishing hallmark of the Montessori Children's House since the first one opened in San Lorenzo in 1907. Dr. Montessori once asked students during a lecture, what is social life if not the solving of problems, behaving properly, and making plans acceptable to all? Isn't that exactly what we experience in a highly functioning children's house? A community is where one feels that he or she belongs. It is home. It is where we live. It's where we work, eat, play, laugh, cry, share stories, rest, celebrate, and encourage those that are in community with us. Many of us experience the sense of community in our families, in our workplaces, in our places of worship, in and through the places and activities where we pursue our hobbies and our dreams. It is a safe place. Not only do we feel physically safe in our communities, we are emotionally safe. We are respected and valued by other members of the community. We honor each other by protecting each other's dignity. We are there for each other, ready to raise each other up. We are free to make mistakes without having to worry about being laughed at or ridiculed. We are filled with the confidence to express our hopes, dreams, even our discontent, without the fear of being belittled. Secure in the knowledge that we will be listened to and responded to. We find comfort in never being expected to do more than that of which we are fully capable, and we often experience intense joy in finding that we are capable of more than we ever dreamed. These are precisely the characteristics of a Montessori Children's House. It is a community of children and a prepared adult who live together, even if but for a few hours a day. It is a beautiful place, carefully prepared for the children who reside in it. Its very physical appearance says, this is a place for children. Children are valued here. It is prepared with purposeful activities, which engage the child and give her avenues to develop to her fullest potential. In it, she finds all the tools that she needs to continue her self-construction, which began at birth. Children will reach out and explore when they feel safe. Their sense of safety comes from a nurturing, predictable, calm environment where adults are attentive and attuned to children's bids for attention and their basic needs for shelter, warmth, and comfort and love are met. Just as in a family, there's a mixed age range. Dr. Montessori nodded to the obvious reasons for having a 3-year mixed age range, such as younger children learning from older children, and older children deepening their own learning by guiding the discoveries of younger children. Of course, she said, this mixed age grouping allows each of the children to work at her own pace and rhythm. eliminating the vain competition seen in other approaches. But even more important than these more obvious reasons to have a large mixed age group, she said, is the matter of order and discipline, and how a sense of community is formed. It was surprising to those first witnesses at the turn of the 20th century, and it continues to surprise observers even today, that this large group of children could maintain such a high level of order and self-discipline with really only one adult in charge. Those of us who have studied Dr. Montessori's work and practiced these principles with real living children know that it is possible through the sophisticated balance between liberty and discipline prevalent in our environments. In the Montessori Method, Dr. Montessori wrote, "Children who have acquired the fine art of working freely in a structured environment joyfully assume responsibility for upholding this structure, contributing to the cohesion of their social unit." Beyond the mixed age range, Dr. Montessori also called for a larger group than most conventional education methods before or since her introduction of the miracle children to the world. In The Child Society and the World, she states that in its best condition, the Children's House community would be comprised of between 30 and 40 children. She allowed that even more are possible depending upon the capacity of the guide. She maintained that it took that many children to really establish all the characteristics of a community and to see children rise to such a high standard of discipline within the freedoms allowed. This design of a multi-year age mix allows for both individual and social development. Children become not only independent, but also interdependent. A sturdy spiral of competence and confidence is created as they learn not only to care for themselves, they become more fully capable of living in the world in harmony among others. The child stays in this community for 3 to 4 years, developing strong relationships and trust levels, not only with the other children, but the adults as well. They really come to know each other. The adult knows each and every child, not only by name and their expressed interests in this prepared environment. The adult knows the child's family, including all their names, the child's birth order in the family, which neighborhood they live in. The adult comes to know all the strengths of each child, some of which are in the academic realm, of a particular affinity for math or language, some of which are in the creative realm, of art or music, and some of which are in the social realm, of easily making friends and mediating conflicts among peers. This is particularly important when the adult relies on his or her knowledge of the child in order to guide him or her through all the various activities in the prepared environment. Each child comes to know the adult, not only through the shared experiences of daily life with one another in this community, but through the many stories that the adult shares with the child. These stories, many of which are autobiographical, cement an authentic relationship. The child hears about the adult's own joys, fears, hopes, and dreams from childhood. There is not only a shared history of real-time experiences, but a shared history of the adult's own developing years, providing a template for becoming to the child. If you do a survey of current literature in education, it seems to be a new discovery among those in conventional educational methods that the best learning happens in nurturing relationships. I'm glad you chuckled. We've seen this principle manifested for over 100 years now in our environments. This community of children and adults established a shared history of significant, deep, authentic relationships. Indeed, by the time they leave us at the age of 6, they've been with us for half their lives. That's a lot of living together. The fruits of a lot of careful nurturing come to bear during that 3rd or sometimes 4th year in a Montessori children's house. That's when she has the opportunity to use all the skills she has perfected to become not only an active participant, but also a leader in the community. Just as she looked up to and followed the example of older children during her first years in the children's house, she now has younger ones coming to her for help in tying their aprons or shoes, or for advice on how to best accomplish some little task. This ability to creatively solve problems, to collaborate and participate in a group, even to lead a group, to care about and nurture others, this is education for life. This is the education for life that occurs while being in a Montessori children's house community during the years from 3 to 6. And this strong sense of community within a Montessori children's house has long-term implications for the future. You've seen it already today. Many elementary, even high school teachers will tell us anecdotally that they see a direct correlation between the heights of student achievement and the strength of community in a classroom. Children who have practiced living and learning in community from such an early age become important leaders in the establishment of community in later learning environments. Beyond their educational careers, and this is where we see these two headed, young adults who have experienced a strong sense of community during their educational experiences are more likely to advocate for public policy centered on the values of human development and community. Again, McMillan and Chavez suggest that a clear and empirically validated understanding of sense of community can provide the foundation for lawmakers and planners to develop programs that meet their stated goals by strengthening and preserving community. Aren't we also talking then about education for peace? Each of us in this room has chosen to continue Dr. Montessori's work in search of ways to strengthen the social fabric, working to provide young children with intentionally prepared environments that support the development of sense of community. In the preface to Education and Peace, Dr. Montessori lamented that society at present does not adequately prepare man for civic life. There is not moral organization of the masses. Here we are, lo, these many years later, and all one has to do is watch the evening news to wonder if we really haven't come very far. We still see human beings who seem to regard themselves as isolated individuals who must satisfy their immediate needs through competition with others. Dr. Montessori spoke of a powerful campaign of organization to enable men to understand and structure social phenomena, to propose and pursue collective ends, and thus to bring about orderly social progress. Well, just what does that powerful campaign look like? This, she told us, is the task of education. Again, in Education and Peace, she tells us education cannot be dismissed as an insignificant factor in people's lives, as a means of furnishing a few rudiments of culture to young people. No, she maintained that education must be viewed from the perspective of human development, and that we must be concerned with the development of moral values in the individual. The second significant factor of education, she said, is the point of view that individuals possessed of these enhanced values organize themselves into a society consciously aware of its destiny. She goes on to say, and I quote, "A new form of morality must accompany this new form of civilization. Order and discipline must be aimed at the attainment of human harmony. And any act that hinders the establishment of a genuine community of all mankind must be regarded as immoral and a threat to the life of the society." She's telling us that we must not neglect the education of character. She reminds us that this period of development in the first 6 years of life are the most important in one's life. If we are to see a strong social fabric then, we must support optimal, healthy development during these first critical years when character is developed. One of our utmost responsibilities then is to give intentional, reflective mindfulness to the ways we can help to support the establishment and the ongoing maintenance of a sense of community in our environments. And the important word here is intentional. Just as we prepare the physical aspects of the prepared environment, we also have to give intentional thought to the preparation of the spiritual aspects of the environment, leaving nothing to chance. It is not enough to know all of the purposes, prerequisites, and indirect preparations of all our presentations as represented in our carefully crafted albums. It's not enough to know all the steps by heart and exactly what comes next. We have to do more than give exquisite presentations and tick them off on a checklist. We are not teaching lessons. We are inspiring children to learn. And they are inspired in part by their fellow members of the community. We must then understand this critical idea of the importance of a sense of community. We must know how to observe for its manifestation, to remove obstacles to its blossoming, and to nurture its optimal growth and development, just as we do for each individual in our Children's House community. Dr. Montessori referred to the child as hope for the future. It is through the child that we will build communities that are based on faith, hope, and tolerance, rather than on fear, hatred, and rigidity. As Montessori practitioners, we see the immense potential within every child. Dr. Montessori helped us to see the child's ability to become, to treasure the nebulae of potential within each child, endowed with all of those creative powers at birth. We work to help others to see and appreciate what we have learned in our understanding of sense of community, to see it as a tool for fostering understanding and cooperation. Through our work with the child, we can touch the future. And I know it's a cliche, but I really believe it. I think you do too, or you wouldn't be here. Through our work to establish a strong fabric of community, we weave hope for the future. It's our responsibility to reflect not only on the ways we contribute to the weaving of this fabric, but to continually see to its strengthening and to keep it in good repair. I would like to share with you just a really short video of a father speaking to how this sense of community and social response occurred for his son in a Montessori Children's House and how it spread to his family at home.
Special about Cornerstone too is that they have a clear commitment to his academic development, to his emotional development, to his social and spiritual development, and that is really what we're looking for as parents. You know, is really whole child development. one of the biggest things I think is that he has this, it's a really subtle commitment to peacefulness. And I don't know how else to describe it, but I can see it in him and in the way that he interacts. Even if we're driving down the street and pulling over, and he has this thing where he has to stop and figure out how to help that person. Or the way that he engages his nieces and nephews and cousins. And so this commitment to peace that he has, and our desire to keep that in him, is probably the biggest thing I see, and I attribute that to this environment. It's not just the school environment. The truth of the matter, I think, is that it makes you evaluate all the environments your child is in, not just school, because that's really the thing that comes out of it. So even your home, I mean, even in terms of how you begin to modify your home and things that you do to be consistent with that, is one of the side benefits that probably doesn't get talked about enough, is that the development for you as a parent changes, and your style as a parent and the way you develop your home. So there's a bonus component to his development that happens because you as a parent are also developed as you go through the Montessori experience.
So that's one of our fathers at the Cornerstone Montessori, which is the pilot project of our Montessori Partners Serving All Children. It's located on the campus of the Montessori Training Center in Minnesota, intentionally placed in a community of limited access. These families, many of them, most of them, are living in poverty, having difficulty even getting food to the table, and yet we know they love these children, and they too want and deserve a beautiful environment for their children to flourish in. So I couldn't have said it any better than Anthony. So I just want to leave you with a little bit of poetry from Mary Oliver, and this is portions of her poem titled The Buddha's Last Instruction. It goes like this. Make of yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness to send up the first signal, a white fan, streaked with pink and violet, even green. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills, like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed. Yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. May you make of yourself a light, inspiring awe and wonder in each of the lives that you touch every day in your own community, bringing peace and illumination to the world.